Hello, bookworms, bibliophiles, and lovers of all things literature. Welcome to the next chapter of the Braless Book Guild podcast, where we discard our bras and celebrate love in all its forms to talk about books both published and unpublished. We are your hosts, Jenna, that's me, Marissa,
Hello,
and Megan.
Hi.
And today we're joined by a special guest, our friend Haylee.
Hi, everybody.
So before we get started, Haylee, what we always do is we talk about what we're drinking, and we told you to come up with a drink that's not tea because we know you don't like tea. So
Yeah,
we'll
sorry,
start with
everybody.
you. What are you drinking, Haylee?
So my little drinky drink, my beveragino that I have today, is a bastardization of a drink that I tried for the first time at a cafe called Burnt Umber in Garden Grove, California. It is known as a strawberry or chocolate dipped strawberry latte. You know, of course, at the cafe, they make it with espresso, but I don't have $200 to drop on an espresso machine. So in this, it's got cold brew, chocolate syrup, strawberry syrup, and oat milk.
That sounds delicious. I cannot wait to come down there and try this place because you've talked about it before and it sounds awesome.
It's delicious.
Marissa, what are you drinking?
I don't know, Jenna, what am I drinking today?
This is what we do every time. Marissa, you're drinking the Mandarin Orange Spice Black Tea. It's a nice spicy black tea with hints of orange in it. That's the cinnamon you smelled earlier, Megan.
Yeah, I was smelling cinnamon.
Yeah, cinnamon clove kind of feel. She's drinking it iced, guys, just to give you the full rundown. Megan, how about you?
I am drinking an iced tangerine orange from Celestial Seasonings, which technically isn't a tea company, but they make just leafy beverages, I guess.
It's a tisane.
It's just hot leaf water.
Well, this one's cold. Cold
true.
leaf water.
Ooh, really throwing
How
it
about you,
on.
Jenna?
I am drinking, once again, my Hannah's Orchard that I was drinking for our last episode. You know, just shout out to best friend Hannah. It was good and it was nice and refreshing, so we're doing that. Okay, so today we have been counting down the LGBTQ alphabet mafia, and we are now on plus. And so this kind of encompasses anything that wasn't necessarily discussed with lesbian, gay, and bi in our first episode, or the trans queer sexuality that we talked about in our last episode. This is kind of an overarching all. And actually, I kind of thought it would be fun and interesting for this one to talk about representation that we don't see as much and that we'd like to see more of. So if you have books that fall into this plus category, great, guys. But I'd kind of like to talk about what are some representations that you guys want to see more of, or you've read and were done well, but you wish more authors would do it. That's my thoughts.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So Haylee, just to kind of bring it in, this is what we do is we just start talking about any books that you can think of that kind of jog this memory. So I'll kind of start with Marissa. Marissa, what's some representation on the
Don't start
plus?
with me, please.
Oh, sorry. I'll start with
Megan.
Megan, what are some representations you'd like to see more of?
Okay, so I kind of mentioned this, I think, in every episode for this month that I've talked about Garth Nix, who is an amazing author. And he has basically a book on every spectrum. And this one is Clariel, which is part of the Abortion series, the Old Kingdom series. And this one represents asexuality. The main character of the book, Clariel, who is actually this is like set 500 years before the first in the book, which is Sabriel, and then Lyrael, and then Abortion. And that one is just kind of talks about her and how she basically becomes a main bad guy in the main series, and Clariel is actually asexual, and I think that that's pretty awesome, and I think we need a lot more asexual representation in books.
I would love to have more asexual representation in books,
I
mostly
agree.
because I do not like reading the romance as much. Like, every once in a while I do, but if it's, like, I feel like there needs to be more to it, and I love the times when books or movies or whatever do the whole, like, this is the very obvious love interest, and the main character is like, yeah, no, I'm not interested, and just actually follows the plot.
Yeah.
So,
And that's exactly what this book was about, where she was actually betrothed to a character, and she was like, why would I want that?
Yeah.
And she decided to have her own little adventure and become a bad guy,
That's awesome.
which is also pretty cool.
I love that. I love that for her.
Do either of you guys have any other books that you've ever read that have asexuality or aromantic characters that you can think of off the top of your head?
Gail Carriger novels.
of
has
course.
Asexual.
Gail
asexual
Carriger, our
characters.
queen.
Yep.
And like honestly, not recently. Nothing that actually comes to mind. Recently, which I do think means that it's a representation that we're lacking. Like, of course, you know, we're listing examples that, you know, it does exist in our books, but I think we need a lot more because I still believe, like, people still think asexuality isn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is still discourse about asexuality within the LGBTQ community. So I think it's something that should be more normalized, and I would like to see more of it in my books. And this also means to me that I need to be seeking out that subject matter in what I read in the future as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we talked about that a little bit last time, about how there's, even in the community, people that don't believe in identities there. And that's really sad to me. And I think, yeah, we need to not just have it there, but bring it to light is what
Right.
it comes down
Yeah.
to. So I think that's what preparing for this episode specifically did for me, was like, hey, I'm not prepared for this episode. So like we said, next year, if we do this again, this Pride Month thing again, I would love to have a lot more books to talk about and a lot more to recommend. And that just comes with researching them and seeking them out and finding them.
Yeah, it's funny because Haley, in our last episode, we were talking about gender and transsexuality, and I realized that I went in saying I don't know any. I was like, I can't think of a single book that I've read that has this in it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and that just tells me that I need to be looking for more and that it needs to be written more about. But also that that I want to be better prepared next year. And I realized that too with asexuality and stuff. I can't think of a single book where the main character is asexual. Although I did read Sabriel, so I will eventually get to your book, Megan. And I mean, I do hope that one day our fellow host over here is published and, you know, has a book with an asexual character in it.
That was my next on my list, so I'll hop in.
Yeah, jump on
So
in.
we actually just had our critique group, which we have with Haley, Jenna, and I, and we're bringing in Marissa for next month. And so my novel, the one that I had mentioned in a previous episode, is the main character in that one. The main guy character is asexual and aromantic. And I'm worried. One of my questions for our critique was if you guys see there's anything in this book where the characters will, you know, seem like they will end up together. I do not want that because I want them to just have respect for each other and a friendship that blossoms and not a romance, because I also do not care about the romances as much and would very much rather have friendship. The key was friendship
Absolutely.
all along.
That's something too, this whole month doing the LGBTQ has made me think about my writing and who I want to include in it. And I would like to include everybody at least a little bit, go full Gail Carriger,
Yes.
but just have like somebody in the book, whether it's the forefront of it or just a character that comes in that has something to do with the book. I don't want it to just be like the whole like, oh yeah, but that character was asexual. I didn't say it, but
Right.
that character was asexual. I would
Yeah.
like it to be like this person. It doesn't have to do with their sexuality. It doesn't have to do with their identity, but it is very clear that their sexuality or identity and that they are a major part in the book rather than just a throwaway character.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking about my writing a lot too.
Yeah,
And we're going to see
definitely.
that soon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I
not
am
making me nervous at
So
all.
stoked.
Marissa's an amazing writer, actually. I love
I'm
her
not. I
writing.
suck. I've been rereading it. I'm like,
Okay.
I hate
All right. Who am I believing here?
Believe me, I believe it.
You're biased.
Only a little bit. But it's true.
I'll be the judge of that
Yeah.
the next time we meet.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you point blank exactly what I think.
Good.
I think that that's the thing too. Is as I looked into these books for this month, I was like, I want to have more representation in my writing because I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, that author has, a lesbian character on the side, like, or just, one character that's this or that. Like, I want to have a full broad range in my writing too. So it makes me think a little bit more about the backstories of all my characters.
Speaking of other types of representation, I know it's not really the LGBTQ, but we talked about how we accept everybody here. And I'd like to see more autistic characters on the spectrum.
Yes.
I think that's something that's underrepresented in literature specifically, and when it is represented, I don't know if it does it justice.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, with so much light coming into neurodiversity and the way people are, I think that that's something that I really do want to see more of in literature. And I know that I can think of maybe only 2 or 3 characters that were done well in young adult literature specifically. Although I have read books, Saving Max, I believe, is like a murder mystery where the child is autistic, and then it was a Jodi Picoult book where one of the main characters was autistic, and both of those were really, really good and portrayed really well.
Was that the dragon book?
No, both of those are like murder mysteries, like real,
okay.
not fantasy at all. And then I read A Quiet Kind of Thunder, which was cool. That was an autism that was hearing, deaf representation, which I thought was cool. So I like seeing representation for all people in my books, and those were really good ones, I think. And I think actually in A Quiet Thunder, maybe one of them was deaf and the other was no, she was just had anxiety or something, social anxiety, so she didn't speak. But neurodiversity.
I want the record to show before I do share all my writing with you guys that I did have disability representation in my book before we talked about it. So.
That's true.
Something I have actually noticed as I've been reading a lot is a lot of novels that have a focus on queer characters do also tend to have a focus on neurodiversity in those books. One of the better examples that I have is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. It's a creature feature about mermaids. And there's a very wide cast of characters, and I like it. And one of those characters, I can't quite recall her name right now. She is autistic. They say so directly in the work. And not only that, but like she is autistic, and she has her needs and her processes and her habits that she goes through. But she is also the face for a network television. That is filming this expedition. So like I really enjoyed her character a lot because Mira Grant treated her neurodivergence with a lot of care and nuance. Specifically, like, yeah, she has neurodivergency that doesn't lend well to being a face of a television network. However, she does her job well, and there are parts of her neurodivergencies that help her do her job well. But also, it's kind of a thing where they also talk about how like a lot of people don't believe she's neurodivergent because she's hot. Right? And how like and it does go a little bit into about how autism, especially when you're a girl and a pretty one at that, manifests as desirable traits, especially when you're young. And it goes a lot into that about how hard it has been for people to accept her autism because of the way she looks and her gender and stuff like that. And that was something I really enjoyed about Into the Drowning Deep.
Well, that has moved up on my TBR. It was already on there, and now it's like way up there. I'm excited.
Yeah. I like also there's a lot of things that I'll like read a book and then I'll read people's opinions on the book and stuff like that. Not too in depth, but like I like to hear other people that have read it in the conversation, obviously. And people that would point out stuff where it's like nobody was directly stated as being autistic, but they're all like, hey, did you notice that a character like landed on the spectrum because of this, and this? And I'm all like, oh no, I didn't even notice. They were just an interesting character.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if there's a whole entire book talk about it.
That would be cool. Let's look it up.
Oh, absolutely. I guarantee you.
Also, little bit off topic, but we have mentioned our D&D campaign, and Haley is part of our D&D campaign. Is your character Roan? Obviously, we know that she is neurodivergent, but
Yeah.
is she also queer?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
obvious.
Roan is pretty explicitly queer, considering that she has fallen in love.
Oh, that's
with
true.
Pretty much
Yeah, I was
every
gonna say
female character we've come across.
She's fallen in love with like every woman that we've met.
The stronger the woman is, the better.
Yeah. She's
That's
like,
not
oh
true.
wow.
That's not true.
Sidian's very strong, and I don't think Roan's interested.
I think
I think-
Roan would have looked at her once and been like, "Wow, Sidian," and then Sidian just like glared at her and was like, "No."
Yeah.
And Roan's like, "Okay."
Actually, I do think in our Session Zero podcast there was a moment where you're all like, "Are you an angel?"
That's great. I was not there.
Yeah, I think Roan is into being afraid of women. I think like women that scare her is a thing. That is a thing for her. But I think Sidian passes that threshold into like true and unsexy fear.
Terrified.
There's also a guy who I don't know, but he just randomly shows up on my feed, and he does a lot of like book talk stuff. And he has said that he's bi, and they're like, "Oh, so you date men?" And he was like, "God no, God, they're men." And they're like, "Oh, so you date women?" He's like, "No, they're just so beautiful.
scary.
They're just so no, they're intimidating. They're so beautiful. I can't." I
That's
love it.
great. Oh my gosh. I was thinking back, and there is a heterosexual romance that I remember reading last year in
Gross,
February.
get that out of here.
I know we don't talk about those during our Pride Month, but they did a really good job with the autistic tendencies. She was like far on the spectrum, and decided she wanted to have a romantic experience when like she was very autistic, and I was surprised. I didn't realize going into it that it was that's where it was going.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a Kiss quotant, and I don't remember the name of the
yeah.
author. But that one, yeah, I was surprised that I think all of her books,
Helen Pong, I think.
yeah, all of her books have representation for neurodivergence, although they're all heterosexual. So with a grain of salt for Pride Month,
Yeah.
it is plus. It's plus.
It's the plus.
I also mentioned Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherland, or Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and she's neurodivergent in that one as well.
What I was kind of trying to say earlier before I started gushing about Into the Drowning Deep is that I do think specifically when you're reading queer novels, that you will find a much higher instance of also having neurodivergent characters, especially when you're reading books about non-binary and trans characters. Because apparently there's, I can't quote who it's from, but apparently there's some research out there about how autism can sometimes mess with your view of gender and how you identify with gender yourself. So people that are non-binary can sometimes err towards the autism spectrum because just the way it affects your view of yourself and the world can sometimes cause you to kind of disconnect with the gender that you were born as or
Yeah,
the
I
sex
could
you were
see
born
that.
as.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could see there being a correlation between the two. Yeah, I think that that's really I think that the interesting thing is that with the spectrum, with a lot of stuff like that, it lends to more interesting characters because it gives them very unique and obvious quirks, which will differentiate you from other characters really well too. So I think that that's a cool part of having them in the representation in your character casting.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just got to be done well. I think there's a lot of misconception about the spectrum, and there's a lot of like generalizations that happen with it. So that's where I'm kind of like every time I find something like that, or if I go looking for books like this, I'm taking them all with a grain of salt, thinking like, okay, is this actually well researched? Is it actually accurate, or is it just like, hey, I needed to add this character in here, so I'm just going to do it with the smallest bit of knowledge that I know about it. So
Cassandra Clare actually she
did a good one.
She had a good one, and it's in the more modern trilogy, the Lady of Darkness or
Lady Midnight.
Yeah, Lady Midnight, that's what it was. And she represents an autistic boy and how he struggles because in their society, it's very obviously conservative society because it's shadow hunters stem from angels, which stem from the biblical society. So like they're slow to even accept homosexuality, and that's a struggle that people have, but they definitely struggle to accept the neurodivergence of him too. And they were like, it would be a big issue if people realized how off he was.
Yeah.
And he's gay.
Yeah.
Another example, I think, of someone that does representation well, though this is my opinion, and also based on this person's kind of resume that I was able to look up. So there's a book called Yours for the Taking by Gabrielle Korn. And that's Korn with a K. And that is a dystopian novel about basically a girl boss billionaire creating, like, this is middle climate disaster. I think it's supposed to be set, 20 years in the future or something like that, where like most of New York is underwater, and the earth is being ravaged by the climate crisis. Big girl boss billionaire basically creates a vault similar to Fallout.
Nice.
But she takes great pains to only put women in their mid-20s in this vault, and like tries to create a society about that. And this is the reason why I say this book is a little divisive, is because Gabrielle Korn herself, I believe, I think she has like a master's in gender studies or something like that. She is highly educated in her field, and she like led LGBTQ plus strategy at Netflix, and she was a editor-in-chief at Nylon, so like she knows what she's talking about. Something that I've noticed in some reviews that I read of the book after I read the book itself is like there were some people that were like, this is Tumblr word soup. Because she uses that sort of language that we do see in kind of leftist circles when we have like discourse. And while I do see that, I also like when reading the book, she absolutely knows what she's talking about and uses that language in her novel. And she takes great pains to talk about intersectionality, and I believe that was like kind of the big thesis of Yours for the Taking, about like how just feminism, right, specifically white feminism, isn't going to work for us in the long run, and taking into account other identities outside of just one, aka intersectionality, how important that is. And we have a lot of representation in that book with neurodivergency and women of color that are also lesbians, and trans women. And yeah, I forgot what my point was, but that is
welcome to my life, Haylee. This is me in every episode.
I think that's awesome though, because it's like I was saying earlier, she does her research, and it's not just her saying it off the top of her head. And I think that's amazing.
That was my point.
That was the point.
That was my point, is that she absolutely knows what she's talking about. But sometimes it is to those that are, I guess, not very familiar with leftist discourse, it can be a little bit to her detriment.
Yeah, it's hard because it's finding that balance, right? Of like,
yeah,
hey, I'm educated and I want to educate you without sounding like I'm trying to start a war against this or preach or anything like that. It's like, I want you to understand, but be knowledgeable.
Can you guys think of any other plus representation you guys would like to see in novels, or you have seen done well?
I actually have one that I'd like to discuss that I forgot to do for last episode, but I do think it also fits in the plus category because the main character is also disabled.
Oh, yes.
And it is Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao. And I believe that they are a they-them author. Basically, the main character in that, I do not remember. It's been like 4 years since I read it, maybe 3, because it has been a hot minute since it came out. But that is one that ends in a throuple as well.
Ooh.
So she's basically, and it also is a huge like conversation on gender itself, and since it's based in, it's like ancient China in space with mecha. So
Oh yes, I read this book.
Yeah.
I read this a couple of years ago. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, and so it has this whole idea of yin and yang, and I don't remember which one was which. If it's like the female is the yin and the male is the yang, and that in order to pilot the mecha, the male has to like feed off the female's like energy, and the reason she's disabled is because she has the feet binding, where it's like the lotus foot or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she's disabled from that, and she is able, when she's like put into the mecha so her pilot or whatever can feed off of her, she's like nope, and ends up feeding off of him and controlling the mecha herself.
That's dope.
It was really cool. It had a very interesting, and it had a very good plot twist, and we've been waiting forever for the next book to come out, and it's coming out soon. They even released a cover and everything. So I'm interested to see how like the throuple situation ends with the first book, how it progresses in the second book as well.
Wait, let me know when the next book's out, because then I'll start reading it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a duology or a trilogy.
Oh boy.
I know.
Let me know when the next book's out and you finished it, and then maybe I'll start reading it.
But yeah, I just liked the idea of like the gender thing, and that's why I wanted to actually talk about it last episode, but I forgot. It was not on my list. It was
fine.
on the other page of this list. But
Plus is everything we forgot about.
yes, plus is everything we have forgot about.
Yeah.
And so that one. So yeah, I really recommend that one. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, you know, by saying, you know, the plus is everything that we've forgotten about, which signals to us that we need to be making more of a conscious effort to be seeking out that literature,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Totally
True.
focusing on that in the future.
Yeah. Definitely. I was gonna say, if you like that, you're gonna like Angela's book.
Oh, nice. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah, you touched on it a bit there too. Disabilities. It's such a wide umbrella of disabilities that you can use, and sometimes it's very obvious, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes I feel like it's overshadowed by certain things in the book that make the characters not stand out as much. But I think that's something that I'd like to see more of in literature, specifically stuff like blindness, deafness, paralyzed people, stuff like that. I think that's something that you don't see as much in books.
Illuminate Files. They have Gemina. They have a character who is in a wheelchair, and she is one of the best characters in the entire series.
She is awesome. A Heart So Fierce and Broken. Actually, it has. I haven't finished it, so you're giving me a look, Megan.
So it's A Curse So Dark and Lonely is the first one.
Oh, okay. So that's probably why.
And I was actually going to bring it up and be a little bit more subtle about the title, but she is disabled because she has cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
But I feel like it doesn't, as Marissa said, it doesn't play into the storyline itself enough for it to be an actual like issue for the character.
Right. Yeah, but I think that almost in some ways like that, it's interesting because there has to be a fine line. There has to be somewhere it's necessary for the story, but also like I think people want to see themselves when it's not just necessary for the story. You know, I just because I have this disability, just because I am this way, doesn't mean that's the only defining feature of me. Like, it's something that's subtle. The Fourth Wing kind of does that too, where it's important to the story, but it's not the most important part of the story. And they don't actually define what her disability, like in words in the book, what her disability is in that one too. But
oh my god, I just thought of once again Angela's book.
It has everything, it seems.
Angela's book is actually really good, guys. I was surprised by it, not because I thought her book was gonna be bad, but I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of stuff on
for
it.
Haylee, Angela's book is we're doing our book exchange again this year, which we had done last year. And Angela chose Eon by Allison Goodman.
Eon, Dragon Eye Reborn, I believe, is
and
the first one.
The first one's Eon, the second one's Iona. And I haven't read it yet. It's my next one. We are all pleasantly surprised with how much there is in it. So
yeah,
we're excited for this.
Especially because I think it was written a little while ago. Like, it's not a new book.
Yeah, it's pretty old, I think. I think it was in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
90s.
I think it was early 2000. I want to say like 2008-ish, maybe.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
exactly.
Okay.
But
So like before, so like were there, I guess, so there was a lot of representation. Can you be a little bit more specific about what you're talking about?
without spoilers, there's a discussion on gender and the true meaning of gender. There's disability. There's kind of queerness in it. I wouldn't say it's overtly queer in any ways. The main character is like 14 years old or something like that, so that there's not really a love story in the first one that I know of. There is a love story, but it's not with the main character. So it's like there's LGBT representation, but I can't go into it too much because of spoilers.
Okay.
But I highly recommend it because it was a pleasant surprise when I would get to it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's really interesting in a book from like 2008 having a discussion on gender.
Yeah, Jenna's fact checking me right now because that's what she does for the podcast.
So the funny thing is about this one is that this book was originally published under another name in Australia, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to look up to see when that one was published, but Eon itself says that it was published in 2010. So even still, but let's see, this one
even still, that's
2009. So 2008 to
no,
2000.
like I think that's really cool because I remember back in 2009. And discussion on gender back then was rough, to say the least.
It was almost non-existent back in 2009 because 2009 was right after in California they had Prop 8 and all of that stuff. So it was more on like sexuality rather than gender.
Yeah.
Right.
How old were you in 2009, Marissa?
We won't talk about that. I was very young compared to all of you.
Compared to all of you.
A baby? Is that the answer? Was it a baby?
I was a teenager.
13 specifically?
13 specifically.
Yeah, I
Just a
forget,
teenager.
Marissa, that we're like almost the same age. Yeah, I was in my freshman year of high school in 2009.
Yeah, I was just finishing. I was just going into high school.
You got some
Just before,
babies.
So little.
Sorry.
Aw.
I forget that.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay. My husband's your guys' age too. So.
Yeah.
My husband is 8 years older than me.
Old man.
He is an old
We
man.
have the whole spectrum.
Yeah, a good foray. I just kind of like piggybacking off of discussing things well before their time. I do want to say that, again, Garth Nix, he was talking about depression in Lyriel, which is the second book in the Abortion series, the Old Kingdom series. He was talking about that, and that came out in 2001.
Wow.
And that was like my first impression of depression and like someone who has suicidal ideation and is dealing with like not fitting in. And that was like really, and at the time I didn't realize what it was, but then rereading them a couple years ago and being like, dang, yeah.
I think the great part about that is when you discover these books that were written a while back, like 10 plus years, and seeing the discussion they have and how it still holds up is crazy to me.
Exactly.
Right.
Because we've come so far, but still
Need a lot to go.
have a lot to go.
I recently watched a video that was a clip of an episode of I Love Lucy.
Oh.
And it was when her husband, I think Esteban, was that his name in the show? I don't remember.
No.
But it was that discussion it was her husband was like, I'm the man of the house and you're gonna listen to me. And then Lucy and her friend started talking about women's rights, and it was very much like, I cannot believe we are still having this exact same conversation like 50 years later.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I liked there's I don't know who the host was or anything, but there's a clip online of Lucille Ball being on this interview, and the host goes out into the audience to like have audience ask questions. Yeah, and like he's being very fun and charismatic, and he's like, oh, we got a lovely lady right here, and he'd like put his hand on her shoulder or her lower back, and she's like, take your hands off her, David.
Yeah.
And just like every single time he walked up to a woman, get your hands off her.
I love her.
Lucille Ball's a goat.
Yeah.
Or the goat, I think is what the cool kids are saying these days.
Is that
not a goat.
We've talked about this. We're not up with the slang.
Ryan is. He knows what it's all about because he's a
He's a
middle school
Yeah,
teacher.
he's a teacher. He has to be subjected to it at all times.
He
That's
can teach us.
That's gonna be his entire episode for when he joins the podcast. Is just teach us all the slang.
What are they saying now?
What books are you reading in class and teach us the slang?
Yep.
Yeah. We should have him translate The Outsiders.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Okay.
Do we have
that it?
anything else?
We
But
gotta
I
have
know.
more.
Okay, I think the big point of this was the fact that we don't have a lot on this subject, and we want to find more. So ultimately, I think the goal is let's do our research, find more, and
Absolutely.
Make each other read it.
make each other read it. We're going to read those. We're going to promote them. We're going to promote the good
Absolutely.
ones that are well done, and blast those out so that it becomes more popular.
Well, as someone who is an ally and goes to Pride every year, you know, if someone wants to set up a booth with all of the books that we should read and cover all of this, that would be great for me because I will just be found reading my book in the middle of Pride.
I could see
I think
that actually.
I think we should also, probably open up to the audience. Get in the comments.
Yes.
Exactly.
We will be doing our own research and labor to find what to read, but if anybody that's listening has any recommendations
Or
you know,
representation that they never see. Like, if you have something that you're like, dang, I never see this and I really want to read it, like, tell us because we want to write too. So we want to represent you.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's actually great feedback. If you guys have anything that's like, hey, this is never done or done well,
Yeah.
let us know so that
Yeah.
we can be those people to push that out into the world.
So I have one
Uh-huh.
that we can.
Yay.
And this is Kim Ji-young, born 1982, and this is a Korean book that was translated that I read, and it inspired a huge feminist movement, which I think is called 4D.
4B.
Yeah,
The 4B
4B.
movement. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Haley knows about it. And so, have you read this one, Haley?
No, I haven't read it, but I am slowly slowly familiarizing myself with the 4B movement because it's very interesting, and I think it's something to watch for the future because it is. I think it started in Korea or in South Korea, but I think it's very slowly picking up traction here in the U.S. as well.
Now I want to research it.
So basically, it was inspired by the Me Too movement, and in Korea, they call them burka, and it's basically like hidden cameras where in like women's restrooms, dressing rooms, and they would illegally film women. And so this author wrote this book not in like, it just happened to come out in 2016 around the time of the Me Too movement, and it's about just a woman who is expected to marry and have kids and be the homemaker, and then her husband would be the money maker of the family, but she doesn't want to do that, so she's kind of like breaking out of this like gender role that is put on her, but her family is thinking that she's going through like a psychosis because of it, and she actually genuinely is, but they just believe, oh, she's crazy because she doesn't want to have a family and be in the house. She wants to be a worker. What? And that's a huge thing in Korea right now, is that the birth rate is falling drastically because women don't want to have babies, and they want to actually work and earn for themselves and stuff. And I witnessed that myself when I had a co-teacher when I was teaching. She said it was really difficult to come home after a full day's work, cook the meal for her husband, take care of her kids, make sure they went to their after-school programs, while he would come home, drink a beer, and then go to bed. And she would have to clean and do all of this stuff. And I said, well, why doesn't he do it? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, when you guys both work jobs, when you come home, the housework is together because you both have outside jobs. So once you're home, the house job is both of yours.
Like,
and she didn't understand.
you guys are performing the same amount of labor outside the home, so it would make sense that you would perform the same amount of labor inside the home.
Right.
This is actually something that I've become a stay-at-home mom recently, that is a big thing for stay-at-home mothers too in general, is that for the most part, men think like, oh, I work hard so that you can stay at home, and then the women just take on all the work because suddenly everything with the house is the mom's duty.
Now, that being said, I think it's also that that commentary on there's some people on the LGBTQ community who don't support parts of the community. It's the same thing with the feminist movement. I think there are some feminists who don't support part of what the feminist message is, and that's they think stay-at-home moms should be abolished. It's terrible. You shouldn't do that. That's a waste of your life. We worked so hard to get out there and to work and whatnot.
Totally.
It's like, no, we worked hard to have that choice. And
Absolutely.
so I think that's something that I struggle with when I read books or watch movies or anything that have that feminist
agenda.
Yeah, of the feminist agenda. I was gonna say that feminist overtone. Of like actually putting down women for having their own opinions.
Right. And you can be a strong and independent woman while still doing those things, being a stay-at-home mom, being in that role. Just because you do those things doesn't take away from your ability to be a strong woman. You are still allowed to be a strong woman in that role. I once in college, guys, I was in an
Where?
English class and I was peer reviewing a paper, and I've told my story. I literally, I had to sit down across from this man who wrote a paper, and in the paper there was literally the sentence, "Bitch, get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich." Mind you, this guy also didn't use the Y and O in you. And I wondered how the heck he ended up in college. But I was just sitting here like, how do I smile at you across from me and give you critique when you use this sentence?
That's how you do it.
Oh, I would have eviscerated that man.
I started out very nice and slowly eviscerated him with a lot of words he probably didn't understand because he didn't know how to spell you.
Okay. You're kinder than me.
On that note,
We just went on a whole tangent, guys. This is the plus episode.
This is plus. The entire premise of this episode is that it's important that we talk about these things. It's important that we read about these things. There's so much in life that just isn't talked about and has been swept under the rug for years and years and years because society has desexualized women and made us feel like, well, sexualized us and then told us that our sexuality was a curse and not something we should pay any attention to.
Yeah, it was witchcraft.
And then we just stopped talking about things, even to each other. Even women weren't talking about things to each other. So there was so much that wasn't known. We were all joking about watching Bridgerton recently and how in that time period, moms didn't talk to their children about sex. So they just didn't know anything about it. And then they get married and they're like, good luck. And it's like, even in a day where it's talked about, like the fact that men are asking how we pee with tampons in is absolutely ridiculous.
It shows how the education system has failed.
Yes,
especially for.
I think this is a consequence of like how a lot of schools do sex ed.
If they even do it,
yeah, based on gender. Yeah, or if they even do it, like because I remember sex ed wasn't co-ed for me until I started going to public school. But I started out in Catholic school, and sex ed was very particularly gendered. So, like, the boys would go into one room, and girls would go into another. And I think that's kind of, like, where it starts, right? Where you're not educated about what other anatomy is from the start. And that just compounds itself as you grow older.
I've been in public school the entire time. That's how it started out with us, too. It was always boys separate from girls, learning about the two separate...
puberty stuff.
Yeah, puberties. Yeah. And then you got into high school and it was literally like 1 year of high school in like this one class. I didn't even think it was a full year. I think it was like a semester. Yeah. And it was just a quick like, hey, here's kind of what sexuality is, but not really. Here's just kind of the big overtones of health. And they talked about calories a lot. I remember they talked about calories in mine. And I was like, okay. Didn't learn much.
For me, it was 7th grade. So it was 5th grade was puberty, and then 7th grade was sex ed. And then in high school, it was that one semester of health in freshman year that I took during the summer school prior to freshman year. So I had even less.
Yeah.
Because I did I think it was 3 weeks long or something. So
And we just did 3-hour-ish long episodes talking about different sexualities and genders, and
which were not discussed at all.
which were not discussed at all or talked about during any of our growing up.
Yep.
Totally off topic-ish. Well, off topic completely, actually, 100%. Sidetracked. When I was looking at books to do, that I was like, oh, well, I'm going to add that to my TBR. I'm going to add that to my TBR. The name of this book totally stood out to me, and Haley said that she was in Catholic school, and it's The Lesbian's Guide to Catholic School. Yes. And I was like, I want to read this, but I was like...
but she's going to give it to me first, and then
I give it to Marissa first. But it's literally the cover of it is National Book Award finalist, William C. Morris Debut Award finalist. It's like a finalist for Hecka Award. So I'm like, this must be a good book. So Marissa, Haley, read this for me so that I can know if it's good.
Oh, going back on book topic, when I was trying to look up asexual books, I guess the sequel to the Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue or whatever.
A Woman's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy?
Yeah, I guess she's asexual in that.
I remember that, actually, because they're like, we want you to get married, and that's why she ran away with her brother.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It was a long time since I read it, so, but yeah.
Okay, guys, so we'll just wrap this one up because we've gone off topic like a million times now. So I want to wrap this up with, what books are we currently reading?
Haley, what book are you currently reading?
I am currently reading an arc for Please Stop Trying to Leave Me by Alana Saab, I believe her name is. It is a story about a woman. It's a very creatively written book. She is meeting with her new therapist because she recently had a mental breakdown and has problems with derealization and depersonalization. But, there's also other factors, like she is a lesbian, and that's a very significant part of the book. But it's a very interesting read that I'm enjoying a lot because, the whole, or 90% of the book is her conversations with her therapist. And a lot of what she brings up is stuff that does have to do with her mental illness, but also she brings up a lot about societal issues that I believe are making us mentally ill, and how societal issues can cause mental illness because of the amount of hopelessness that we can feel while watching the things that are happening around us. It comes out on June 25th.
Nice.
And it's a very good, but it's a very intense read.
Well,
I would say.
Good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure you were hoping for a quick answer, but I have never had a quick answer.
We never give quick answers here.
There's
fine.
nothing quick.
Yeah.
What about you, Marissa?
I'm still on the Girls in Paper and Fire trilogy. When I finish that one up, though, I think I need a palate cleanser from young adult books and stuff and new adult books. And I was actually just looking at my shelf, and I think I'm going to go with The Invention of Murder by Judith Flanders, which is more of a nonfiction look into Victorian death and destruction and stuff like that, and how it affected media and but back in Victorian era media, so papers.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I like it. What about you, Megan?
I am also reading Girls of Storm and Shadow, which we will be discussing next week.
Yes.
The entire series next week.
I too, I'm finishing up the Girls of Paper and Fire series. But once I finish that, I also would like a palette cleanser from all of our homework. I'm actually I'm in line for the 5 Broken Blades, and that should be the one that comes through next on my Libby app. So I want to read that one.
What is that one about?
That's one that you sent me a thing about. Actually, I added it the minute you sent it to me. Mai Corlin is the author, and it's supposed to be an epic fantasy. And gosh, I'm gonna resend you the thing so that you can know all about it. No, it's the 5 most dangerous liars in the land have mysteriously been summoned to work together with the single objective to kill the God King.
Oh yeah,
And,
that sounds
yeah,
awesome.
So it's going to be kind of heisty, but more murdery. So I'm excited for that.
Ooh. It's giving the Mistborn trilogy, or the first book in the Mistborn trilogy.
Oh,
It's kind of similar.
I have not read that one, but Megan did. So
No, I didn't.
No, you haven't.
only
You haven't
read-
read that one. You keep talking about the other ones.
Yeah, I've only read Skyward.
That's why. I do have to read Brandon Sanderson. I literally have never gone to Barnes & Noble and not picked up a Brandon Sanderson novel, but have never bought it. Then, Haylee, you came up with a wonderful quote that we are going to end this off on. So can you give us our quote?
Yes, I have a quote today from Anna Dorn's novel Perfume and Pain. So if you're interested in odes to lesbian pulp fiction, I highly recommend you read. But this quote from Perfume and Pain is, I just want to write something entertaining and sweet. That love is beyond politics, that it's cosmic and universal, and that's all people want from a book.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, that's
Even though we
great.
talked about politics a lot.
I know, right? We went very political in this episode.
But it shouldn't be
Well,
political.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, which is the crux of the thing.
this. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Haylee, for joining us. We're going to have you back
Yeah.
on again.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you so much.
October is spooky month.
Yes.
Get some
Yes.
Haylee too.
Yes.
I do be reading a lot of horror novels.
Yes. Maybe you can come up and actually visit us that time. We'll invite
Ooh,
you
yeah,
to
okay.
our den.
Yeah,
Okay,
my
that
tiny
sounds
apartment.
great. It looks very comfy.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.